The morning began like any other, until one headline sent shockwaves through the automotive world. Reports surfaced claiming that Aaron Kaufman, the man once seen as Richard Rawlings' right-hand genius at Gas Monkey Garage, had filed a secret lawsuit against his former boss. The internet erupted instantly. Fans flooded comment sections, gossip channels lit up, and speculation spread faster than wildfire. For years, people had wondered why Kaufman walked away from Fast and Loud at the height of its fame. Some blamed burnout, others whispered about creative differences, but few imagined there might be legal documents involved. Now, whispers suggested this was more than a personal feud. It was a fight for ownership, for credit, and for truth. The two men had built an empire together. Their chemistry, their chaos, and their charisma made Gas Monkey Garage a cultural phenomenon. But behind the laughter and the burnouts, the tension was building. Rawlings thrived on the spectacle, while Kaufman craved the craft. The deeper the fame grew, the wider the rift became. Insiders began to suggest that the end wasn't a sudden breakup. It was a slow-burning war. Disagreements over pay, branding, and intellectual property may have piled up for years, hidden beneath layers of contracts and network obligations. Now, those layers were starting to peel away. Fans wanted answers. Did Aaron really take his old boss to court? Was Gas Monkey's empire built on more than just horsepower, maybe on betrayal and broken promises? Or was this rumor another chapter in the long shadow of reality TV, where truth and narrative blur? Whatever the case, one thing was clear. Something powerful had been buried. And if this lawsuit existed, it could be the key that finally explains why two brothers in builds turned into enemies overnight. Before the chaos and controversy, there was magic. Gas Monkey Garage wasn't just a shop, it was lightning in a bottle. A raw, unfiltered blend of talent, personality, and perfectly timed television exposure. Richard Rawlings had the charisma, the big vision, and the relentless drive to turn metal into money. Aaron Kaufman had the craft, the precision, and the soul of an artist who could turn junkyard wrecks into rolling masterpieces. Together, they were unstoppable. When Fast and Loud first hit the screen, viewers were hooked instantly. Every episode felt electric. Cars reborn, deadlines missed by inches, emotions spilling into chaos. But what made it work wasn't just the builds. It was the bond. Rawlings and Kaufman felt like brothers. Fans saw the spark in every frame. The energy of two dreamers who somehow made it big. But even during those early days of success, cracks began to show. Richard saw television as a business, a chance to build a brand that could outlive the show itself. Aaron saw it as a canvas for craftsmanship, a place to push boundaries, not profits. Their visions were beginning to collide, quietly at first, then louder with every season. The bigger the show became, the harder it was to ignore the tension brewing behind the scenes. And as the money started rolling in, so did the egos, the deadlines, and the silent resentment. Gas Monkey's golden era was just that, a golden illusion. The shine was bright enough to hide the fracture lines beneath it. At some point, the dream became a burden. Long nights, impossible schedules, and a growing divide between passion and profit. Discovery Channel wanted drama, ratings, and faster builds. Richard pushed for spectacle. Aaron wanted substance. The two began to clash more often, sometimes quietly, sometimes not. Crew members whispered about shouting matches that never made it to air. Entire projects were scrapped when arguments exploded off camera. Cars were rushed to completion, not for quality, but for the cameras. Aaron's perfectionism didn't fit the network's timeline, and it was slowly driving him out. Then came the moment nobody expected. Without warning, Aaron Kaufman was gone. No big send-off, no heartfelt goodbye. Just an empty space where the heart of Gas Monkey used to be. Viewers were left stunned, and the network barely addressed it. Behind the curtain, those closest to the show said Aaron had finally reached his limit. The creative freedom he once had was gone. The builds he loved were now products of television. What started as friendship had turned into friction. But what the public didn't see was what happened next: the silence. And silence in this industry usually means one thing: lawyers. When the news of Aaron's departure hit, Gas Monkey Garage scrambled to control the story. Press releases painted it as mutual. Interviews were careful. Discovery avoided the topic entirely. But fans weren't buying it. Rumors began swirling that things behind the scenes were far from friendly. Some claimed there were unpaid bonuses. Others whispered about creative control clauses and ownership disputes buried in their contracts. Aaron stayed quiet, focusing on new projects, while Richard doubled down on his empire: new merchandise, new shows, new deals. For years, both sides kept their distance, and that silence only deepened the mystery. Industry insiders hinted that legal tensions were brewing: confidential agreements, non-disclosure clauses, settlement offers that never saw daylight. People close to the situation described it not as a breakup, but as a cover-up. A carefully managed separation meant to protect the brand, the show, and the money machine behind it. And if the rumors were true, the real fallout wasn't televised. It was hidden in documents, buried in court filings, and sealed behind corporate walls. The question wasn't why Aaron left. It was what he took with him. As the dust settled from Aaron's quiet exit, something strange began to surface online. Legal enthusiasts and devoted fans started digging, searching public databases, corporate filings, and business registrations connected to Gas Monkey Garage. That's when whispers began about a potential non-disclosure agreement tied to Aaron's departure. Redacted documents, corporate filings, and sealed correspondences hinted at something far bigger than creative differences. Some claimed to have seen communications between Kaufman's representation and Gas Monkey Entertainment LLC. The tone, they said, was tense, suggesting a dispute over intellectual property, royalties, or unpaid compensation from the show's most profitable years. Others pointed to Aaron's sudden absence from official Gas Monkey merchandise and reruns, as if his name had been quietly scrubbed from the legacy he helped build. None of it could be confirmed, but together, the pieces began forming a shadowy outline. If true, it wasn't just a professional split. It was a legal battle disguised as a friendship fallout. Fans began asking the same question: was Aaron silenced by contract or by choice? Each discovery led to another mystery. Each clue led back to money. And for the first time, people started wondering if Fast and Loud had buried more than just cars. It might have buried the truth. While Aaron stayed silent, Richard Rawlings moved fast. Publicly, he brushed off the rumors, always smiling, always selling. He appeared in interviews, podcasts, and public events, emphasizing that Gas Monkey Garage was thriving. But sharp listeners caught his tone: subtle digs, veiled remarks about loyalty, and people who couldn't handle success. During one interview, he mentioned that not everyone was cut out for the business side of fame. Fans immediately connected the dots. It sounded personal. Too personal. Online discussions exploded with speculation that these jabs were aimed squarely at Kaufman. But Richard didn't stop there. He doubled down on expanding his empire: restaurants, whiskey brands, new shows, all under the Gas Monkey banner. Every move screamed confidence, but some saw it as deflection. The louder the success, the quieter the truth became. To his supporters, Rawlings was simply moving forward. To his critics, he was covering tracks. And the deeper people looked, the clearer the pattern became. Every time an ex-employee spoke out, they seemed to vanish from the narrative. Contracts, NDAS, reputations. Richard played the long game, and he played it well. Still, one question refused to die. Was Aaron Kaufman just another casualty of Richard's ambition, or the one who finally fought back? After walking away from Gas Monkey, Aaron Kaufman re-emerged not as a celebrity, but as a craftsman. He launched ArcLight Fabrication, a haven for builders, dreamers, and perfectionists. His philosophy was simple: slow down, build right, and never compromise. When his new show Shifting Gears premiered, fans immediately noticed the difference. The pacing was calmer, the tone more authentic, and the cars more personal. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about freedom. But beneath that quiet determination, shadows lingered. Industry insiders whispered that legal friction between Aaron and Gas Monkey still existed. Deals fell through. Partnerships paused. Some sponsors reportedly backed out after lawyers got involved. Every time Aaron's name was linked to Gas Monkey, something happened behind the scenes. Emails went unanswered, collaborations delayed. The message was clear: the past wasn't done with him yet. For all his efforts to move forward, Aaron was still living under the long shadow of the garage that made him famous. The show was gone, but the tension was not. And the longer both men stayed silent, the more people began to suspect that the real story had never been told. Then came a discovery that reignited everything. A handful of fans digging through obscure county databases stumbled across a sealed legal filing in Dallas County. No names were visible, but the connections were uncanny, matching business entities tied to Gas Monkey's corporate structure. The timing lined up almost perfectly with Aaron's exit from Fast and Loud. It wasn't proof, but it was smoke. And where there's smoke, fans knew there was usually fire. Whispers began circulating that the case might involve intellectual property. Questions over who owned the rights to specific builds featured on the show, or even the designs and branding tied to Gas Monkey's image. One insider claimed that certain cars long thought to belong to the garage were actually credited to Aaron's original blueprints. The deeper people dug, the more eerie coincidences appeared. Matching addresses, shell companies, and filings dated only weeks after Aaron's last appearance. The evidence was fragmented, but the implication was chilling. If this sealed filing was connected to Kaufman, then the truth wasn't just being hidden. It was being legally protected. And in the end, that's what made fans question everything they'd ever seen on screen. Was Fast and Loud a story of friendship and passion, or a carefully edited empire built on silence? Away from the headlines and rumors, there was a human story that never made it to air. Years of friendship built over busted knuckles and long nights were suddenly erased by fame. Old clips show two men laughing, finishing each other's sentences, creating magic in a grimy Dallas shop. But that brotherhood slowly turned into business, and business has no room for brotherhood. Behind closed doors, both men carried their own scars. Richard faced the pressure of maintaining a global brand that relied on constant spectacle. Aaron wrestled with the pain of seeing something pure turn into performance. To the world, it looked like a clean break. To those who knew, it was heartbreak. Fans began debating who was really to blame. Some saw Richard as a ruthless businessman who burned bridges for profit. Others saw Aaron as too proud to compromise. But maybe both were victims of the same machine, the relentless grind of television fame. When creativity becomes currency, trust is the first casualty. And once it's gone, no amount of success can rebuild it. No official record of a lawsuit has ever been made public. No one from either camp has confirmed it. But the trail of silence, secrecy, and shifting allegiances tells its own story. Two men started with a dream, to build cars and make people care about them. Along the way, the dream became an empire, and the empire demanded a price. Whether the lawsuit was real or not almost doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what it revealed about the cost of fame, the fragility of trust, and the danger of turning passion into a product. Today, Richard Rawlings continues to expand the Gas Monkey brand, chasing bigger ventures and louder headlines. Aaron Kaufman, on the other hand, keeps his distance, focused on craftsmanship, not cameras. The noise of television replaced by the sound of a single wrench turning in a quiet shop. Their paths will likely never cross again, but their story remains a lesson of loyalty lost, ambition tested, and how two men who built an empire together ended up standing on opposite sides of the same dream. Two garages, two legacies, one truth that still lingers in the air. When the engine stopped roaring, the silence said everything.